Three, two, one. Thanks for joining, Doug. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Alec.
So how's it going?
Oh, we're getting our morning going here. It was a cold morning again, but
Right.
yeah. I think I gave the wood stove one extra crank on the damper last night, and I woke up to about a 58-degree house. So
Really?
yeah, yeah,
Not bad. Probably better than mine.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's just such a fine tuning when you're cranking the damper down to put it to bed at night, and one extra crank, boy, it makes a difference. But it just holds the fire all night long, and then just poof in the morning and trying to get it going.
Do you heat entirely with wood?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
How long have you lived in the current house you live in now?
I built this house 15 years ago.
Oh, so you built it.
Yeah, yeah.
So is that your background before, have you been a builder your whole life or?
Yeah, yes. I started out, my trade technically would be trim carpentry,
Okay.
but then it expanded and we started building houses. I always worked with my brother and another fella, and it just went from trimming, we trimmed so many thousands of houses, we just got sick of it and started building our own houses from the ground up. So yeah, but these houses here, this was always my personal houses were always after work builds, so I would just build these after work.
Okay. So what is that? Explain that.
Explain building a house after.
After, oh, in my head when you said after work, I'm imagining some like partially built home that's been abandoned that you take on.
No. This is work all day and work all night.
Right. Got it. That's awesome. So for those of you, of course, this is episode 1. So this is our first time. And for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Alec LaCasse. I am a full-time woodcarver. I'm the founder of Fundamentals of Woodcarving. I've been teaching in woodcarving for about 10 years now. And well, actually slightly less than that, maybe 9 years. Doug Linker is a very widely respected carver, YouTuber, carving personality, somebody whose name, if you're in the carving world, comes up very often. And so that was impetus for reaching out. Actually, Doug and I met, I think it was a Zoom call, a Zoom lesson that I taught. And I knew that someone famous joined the Zoom call when the majority of my viewers took to Doug and were asking him questions about how and I think the first like 20 minutes of my Zoom woodcarving lesson, this one-day event that I was teaching, was occupied by folks smitten by Doug Linker. So
Man,
I immediately envied your beard, and so here we are, a few weeks later, having our very own conversation. So, but I do appreciate you joining, Doug. I appreciate your cooperation. So yeah, the format is pretty simple. It's kind of an interview-based or conversational podcast where I'll pose a few questions, but you're fully welcome to pose those questions or return questions back on me or pose your own. So the first discussion question I thought I'd pose to you is one that I feel is important for folks who don't feel confident in their skills in carving. It's can you think of a particular mistake that was integral or important or that led you into a positive direction? So some particular thing, hang up maybe that that ended up being important to your growth as a carver.
well, let's back up a little bit. when you refer to me as a carver, I'm more of a carver wannabe. All right. And I just happened into this whole YouTube area. But as far as your question goes, I think the biggest lesson I ever learned was go deep.
Yeah. Make
those cuts. So many times everything was so flat.
Yeah.
And all my little carvings and whatnot would just be just shallow cuts, and I was always never bold enough just to bite in and take that wood out.
Right.
And ends up with blockish looking characters and faces and everything, flat and blocky.
Right. So getting depth. So you say that what were you doing before carving then? If you weren't carving, and when did you start carving?
Do you want to hear my little story I tell?
Yeah. What introduced you to the weird world of carving?
I've always been crafty, I guess you say crafty. And like I said, building houses and staircases and furniture, like that was always the job. So I always looked to the craft area. Like back in the day, a lot of pine crafts and pine things, but always that was my hobby, was just creating little crafts. But one day I stumbled upon a man that everyone should know, and that's Gene Messer.
Gene, totally, absolutely, I know Gene.
I just stumbled on a video of his called "Carve a Little Man," and that video was based on who he looked to was Jack Price, who only carves tiny little men. So that video there, I watched that video right through, and I was immediately smitten. I said, I can do that. And I started out, I took a big bushcraft knife, and I carved a little man with probably a 4-inch blade on a bushcraft knife. And I'm telling you, I thought that thing was the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
Looking back, it couldn't have been worse. But that was the start, and right there. So Gene's video pushed me into it, and I was immediately hooked, and that filled that little crafty void, and gave me, it was something different. Right. I didn't know anybody. I still have yet to carve beside a carver.
Right. Wow.
I have never met, like, I've talked to lots of carvers like this too, but never sat and carved with anybody or had a proper lesson. And so I'm just fumbling my way through.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what got you into the world of creating YouTube content? Like, what possessed you to dive into that world?
Okay, so this does tie in a little bit with the carving, because I was always a survival guy, bushcraft guy. And so the extent of carving would be like pot hangers for your fire, and when the whole Sloyd movement started creeping in, everybody's carving spoons. Right. So when I used to do challenges, like survival type challenges and friction fires for a forum I was on in the States. It was a Bushcraft USA. Uh-huh. And they had challenges back in the day, and you had to complete the challenges, but the only way to prove them was to create a video. So you could show the video, this is how I did, or I completed it by this video. Right. And that's how I started in the YouTube. Okay. So that was just a stepping board. So after seeing all the carving of the spoons and stuff, and after I got that little Gene Messer man in my bug, I got the little bug for the men, I thought, I'm going to show the bushcrafters that we can carve little men. We don't have to just carve spoons. Right. Right. And that's how it all started. Wow. So. Yeah, it was, it's crazy.
So you start creating these videos to submit to this bushcraft sort of competition, if you will. Yeah. And then you start posting those to YouTube?
Yeah, you had to post them on YouTube so you could post them, embed them on the forum.
Right, right.
And then, and so then I started the buddies, camping buddies, then we started making camping videos, and it just evolved into what it is today. So.
Wow. So there you go. So then how does it transition from, was it Gene then that transitions you from bushcraft to carving?
Well, I still have my finger in the bush always. That's who I am. That's where I grew up as a kid. Like like after school, off the bus to the bush. So I believe they go hand in hand.
Right.
And some of my favorite videos are, I call them coffee and carving,
Yeah.
where I'll take a knife and a piece of wood, or find a piece of wood, have my fire in the bush or on a camping trip, and carve something. So I think they do go hand in hand.
Right. Yeah, that's it is nice to have a coffee nearby. I've only recently, it took me like, I don't know, 23 years to get into coffee.
Is that right?
I'm new to it, but I can't really go a morning without it. It's to the point now where I've been getting problems with caffeine. Like I get jittery, but I still keep a cup of coffee, decaf, nearby. I make it every morning because I love the taste of it. So.
Well, in my now old age, I finally got to the point where I don't drink coffee after lunch. I used to drink coffee all day long, right up till I went to bed, and it wouldn't affect me. But now, it's, if I drink a coffee like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, forget sleep until 2.
Right. I feel that. Yeah, that I've read something recently that coffee, or caffeine rather, stays in your system for up to 12 hours. That 6-hour mark that most people talk about, how caffeine, most people think of it as staying in your system for 6 hours, but that's actually the half-life of caffeine. So you'll get about 6 strong hours of intense stimulation, but then the last 6 hours, although not so intense, is still lighting up your adenosine receptors. So pretty cool. Speaking of which, do you like have a morning like routine or ritual or like anything like that, or is it just kind of up and at 'em right away?
Yeah, well, that is my routine. One of my little side jobs is I manage a mall. So every morning, 7 days a week, I take Christmas Day off, but I'm up. I go check out the mall at like 6 o'clock, coffee in hand. Yeah. Just like this season, like I'll go check that the snow is plowed and it's salted, garbages are good, like everything looks good, and just do a little round, and then I come home and then drink a bunch more coffee, have a shower, and then I go to work again. So
were you just there today then?
Oh yeah, I was there like 4 hours ago. Yeah.
Man, so have you always been an early riser?
I think so. Yeah. I'm a real, like, I can get more done in the morning than I can most afternoons. I'm not an afternoon guy. But from 6 till lunch, I get so much more accomplished. So yeah, I like mornings. I like mornings just because it's just nice to go out, and especially even driving around, like there's nobody up and at them. It's quiet and still. So yeah, I like it.
Beautiful. What attracted you to carving in the first place? Was there, if you had to summarize, or really, you don't have to summarize. You can feel free to run with this. But what was it that was appealing to you? You were starting out in bushcraft and picked up carving by virtue of of bushcraft. It's a part of bushcraft. Making tools and utensils. And what was it that, aside from Gene, that you particularly connected with about carving?
The hook. What was the hook?
Oh, you talk about the pot hook.
No. What was the hook that got me on carving?
Yes, the hook. Yeah. What was the pot hook that got you on carving?
So that was easy to me because if you know, like, I am Mr. Busy Hands. Like, as a kid, guaranteed they would have labeled me ADHD. Like, it's not even a question. It's only now that I realize that maybe Dougie wasn't such a bad boy. Maybe he just had ADHD. But anyway, so I had to keep busy.
Yeah.
But never had I found anything to that point where I could just take something so small and put my hands to work on it, and the hours would just disappear. Like, I'm just totally focused, and sometimes I put a radio on, but most times I don't even listen to anything I'm just carving. and it's that something that I can focus on. It's so relaxing. I think of nothing else.
Yeah.
And the hours just fly. So that was really what got me. That it was just such a relaxation exercise that would just keep me busy and happy. And I always like seeing, like, I like to have a result too. So I've never been one for like a week-long carving.
Yeah.
I want that carving done before I go to bed. Like most projects, I'll even, well, to a fault, I'll be done a carving, then I'll even paint it, and then I'll be like, why is it 2 o'clock in the morning? So yeah. So I think that was the main thing, is that just the relaxation and the keeping my hands busy. Like I couldn't even hardly sit and watch TV. Like I'd be all wiggling and looking out the windows and stuff. So
yeah,
such a great hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. So it occupies your busy brain, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My busy brain. Yeah. Because there's a flurry going on up there otherwise.
Do you have any favorite television or like the TV show, documentaries, or what's your preferred source of media? Like what, podcasts, music?
Oh, podcasts, 100%. Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts during the week because I work by myself too.
Yeah.
So I just put in the old earbuds, and most of my work is more labor than brain. So I just entertain myself with podcasts. So
what's a favorite?
What's a favorite? Wow. If you saw my list, it is the most eclectic group. I'll go from preachers to comedians and everything in between. So
right.
A new one I'm really liking is called the Smart List. It's Jason Bateman and what's the other guy? Anyway, a couple other guys. They talk. They're actors, but they do a really good job with the podcast, and also all the making podcasts. Like Making It with Jimmy DiResta and Bob Claggett and those guys. Like that was my favorite. Like Friday, I know what I'm listening to them Friday morning when they come out. There's a couple others, Wood Talk and ones like that. But I like the makers that I can relate to more. So
right. That's interesting. I'll have to check. I wrote both of those down. The Smart List I've not heard of, but Making It you talked about a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago. We last talked about podcasts, and I checked it out, and it was cool. It was just a conversational podcast, just going on about what projects are up on the bench currently.
Yep.
It was kind of fun. I don't have, I would say, any podcasts that I listen to where the objective is just purely casual conversation.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to see them bouncing things off each other and even giving each other ideas and the stumbles that they had or the hurdles they had to go through that week. And it's relational, right? Yeah,
it is. And they talk a lot about, the podcast or the content creation world too, being that, they're I think they're all YouTubers, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So going on about what's involved there and the hurdles and coming up with new projects, and I found that to be interesting. Being
right down to dealing with trolls, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know the most recent.
Yeah. No, they talk about like the hassles of media, social media.
Do you get a lot of trolls? I haven't seen any on your. I've looked at a lot of comments. I haven't seen any.
I'm growing quite the blocked user list. Yeah.
Really? For wood carving?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They don't. It doesn't even have to make sense. They just come on there and just call me every name I've never heard of before and all these stuff. And I do a lot of blocked words and stuff. Some people just come on and talk like sailors on kid-friendly stuff. It's like, you can't do that. So.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, people like to compare me to lots of different people, and
beautiful.
Mostly Cheech and Chong or something.
How do you decide when to react to someone, when to leave the comment alone, when to block it?
Yeah, no, great question, because in the early years, I would actually take offense, you know, and be really upset, and I'd come back and fire something back or whatever. But yeah, just maturity and just knowing it's guaranteed.
Right.
It, like, I'm sure Gene Messer gets trolls. Like, it's just, yeah, it's so maturity. And
don't know, Gene is probably the nicest, sweetest old man. He makes regular videos, multiple videos probably a week, about carving these handheld figures, like whittling projects. And
yeah,
he was someone who was actually instrumental to my appreciation for carving too. His videos are hypnotic and awesome. But the idea of someone posting like a negative, even a negative comment, let alone an aggressive one, it's comical. It'd be the equivalent of like pushing over an old woman, you know, while she's walking across the street with a walker. So
yeah. So yeah, so just maturity now is just, I just read it. Sometimes I just laugh and say whatever and delete it.
Yeah.
I don't let insults stay on the channel.
Yeah.
I just delete, but it doesn't really affect me like it used to.
Right.
Same as a thumbs down. Like, why thumbs down a video that you clicked on?
Right.
That you didn't like the topic.
Right.
Don't click on the video. But anyway, that's, like I said, it's just don't let it get under your skin.
I have a video that I actually went so far as to rename because folks were upset with me about calling it a successful wood spirit carving. The video, to back up a little bit, the video is called, I think it was Carving a Wood Spirit in 10 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably the only video I've ever posted that received any traction at all. And by any traction, nowhere near the likes of Doug Linker, but I think it got somewhere around 100,000 views, or currently has around there. But people hated that video. And from what I understand, it's because the carving wasn't finished. Well, that's one reason. But the other big thing they picked apart and they loved was that I used sandpaper prematurely, or just at all. Wood carvers, I found out pretty early on, they hate sandpaper.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
they hate it with a passion. So I ended up, to finish the story, to conclude it, I ended up writing a new description and a new title, and I think I called it Attempting a Wood Spirit in 10 Minutes vlog. So you can search that on YouTube and watch the embarrassment. And of course, Brad and I, the friend of mine who filmed it, was super, we were super last minute. It was like kind of a project that we pulled out from out of nowhere. Like, we showed up, we had a shop in Detroit at the time, and I got there, and I you know, he's mid-project working on tables for a restaurant, and I was like, you know, Brad, if I shot like a really quick like challenge video, would you hold the camera, like follow me into the shop and do a thing? Like, you don't have to do any edits, any cuts, just one continuous shot. And the reason it's one continuous shot is because I didn't want Brad to have to do anything. Because at the time, I didn't know how to work an editing software or anything. So he's like, oh God, all right, I'll do it. Yeah. So you can see how much he begrudged the process and the quality of the focus ring, just constantly shaking and trying to adjust. When Brad is a really great videographer, but people absolutely hated the shaking and the focus as well. They just fire your videographer. So
when you make your videos, are you doing all the filming yourself now, or you still have a helper? Or?
Yeah, I have a helper. I've resigned. I spent about a year trying to make my own videos.
Yeah.
By the way, this is in regard to Fundamentals of Woodcarving School. I don't really produce content for YouTube right now. I produce content for a subscription carving school. As I mentioned before, it's called Fundamentals of Woodcarving. But yeah, I realized that half of my videos were, you know, mostly out of focus, or the colors were crap, and I try. It's not for lack of trying. I really wanted to make decent videos, but you know, I'm just not as good as a pro. So I've been for the last like 4 months hiring out people. But I was surprised to hear that you do you do all of your video work, and not only that, but you wouldn't consider yourself like a gearhead. Like that sounds crazy to me. You have
No.
200,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you don't consider yourself being into gear.
Oh, I'm terrible. I'm the worst. Yeah. You talk about focus and whatnot. So I do have like a Canon ADD camera.
Yeah.
And I have videos that I have to remake now because I put them out regardless a couple of years ago, because I would be carving and the focus would go to my hand instead of the carving.
Yeah.
And the carving would be a blur or something. So I switched to action cameras just for the simplicity of always in focus. At least in the carving room, you know, like I still take the big camera out and about in the bush or whatever. But yeah, I am so not tech savvy. I've been using the same video editing software for like 6 years because that's all I know how to use. And I'm too afraid to learn a new one. So no, I am not a techie guy at all. I had kids before I had a computer, so I'm so far behind that. Yeah.
Do you have any advice then for budding content creators or YouTubers who maybe don't feel qualified to produce content? They don't feel like they have anything worth saying or worth showing people, or you know, how did you construct your YouTube channel, and what do you attribute your success to in that pursuit of YouTube content creation?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
I don't. It's tough because for the stick-to-itiveness, even when it's the slog of it, you just people to build a channel, you need some regularity, and I say that as the most irregular poster still.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to say, but when you're working a couple jobs, it's difficult to do. But you're never going to grow your channel by doing a video every couple months.
Right.
You know, so that's the main thing. And don't think you got to buy all the expensive gear.
Right.
You'll learn what you need as you go and follow the comments. Like even I'm trying out the microphones now, like wireless microphones.
Yep.
Because in the bush, I would be talking and then I would turn my head and I'd talk for another 5 minutes with no sound going back to the camera. Yeah. And people are going, you should get a mic. Okay, well maybe I should get a mic, you know? So that's how it'll evolve. But smartphones today can do as much as good cameras could. Like think of the technology advances in even the last couple of years.
Right.
Like
unreal.
Like people that have $1,000 cameras are jealous of the video quality of the new iPhone, you know? Like,
incredible. So. Well, I'll show you what I use for probably not friendly to the listeners, but I'll just say what it is. It's the Rode Wireless Go lav mic setup.
That's exactly what I just bought.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, these are great. These are, I think, $200, and it's a wireless lav and receiver, in two kind of like flattened ice cube shaped boxes. They're tiny. It's portable, and the audio quality right from the receiving box is pretty good. Do you use the lav mic that comes with it?
No, I didn't get a lav mic with it. I ordered a lav mic separately, and I ended up having to cancel the order because they blamed COVID for a 6-week delay in shipping, and I'm like, that doesn't count. But anyway, I'll tell you about those mics. This is so audio not friendly, but those mics, this is my tech level. I just went out and made a video without trying them. So you know how you have 3 settings of the low, medium, and high?
Right.
Well, automatically came on high, and I just turned it, I turned it on and went.
Yeah.
And I went and made a video in the bush, and I came home and just about died. I had to go back and reshoot everything I had filmed because I was just blowing out the microphone the whole time. And that's how I learned. I'm not smart enough to try it at home first. Just went out and went straight at it, and it was horrible.
I had the same thing happen to me when I plugged those bad boys in. I was so pumped, and then recorded my first video. And I'm lucky my housemate, a friend of mine, moved in maybe 6 months ago, came in, saw me struggling, and went in the camera settings and, reduced the input volume. But if it weren't for him, I'd still be recording videos with audio that's capping the whole time.
Yeah. So, let me ask you a question. How do you like having the home shop versus like the Detroit shop? The difference in going to work or walking beside your house?
Yeah, it's significantly better. Yeah, it's just all around better because, I mean, the commute is that's reduced significantly. Instead of an hour and 20-minute drive, it's a 30-second walk or 20-second walk, if I've had enough coffee. Yeah, so it's awesome. Yeah, I would say it's probably the best thing I've done for myself. To build this studio has been it's been awesome. Yeah, to have the dedicated space, to just have the solace. In the old place in Detroit, I was working with a friend of mine, a great woodworker. Shout out to Wall Woodworking on Instagram. But working with him was fun. And actually, sometimes I do miss the camaraderie. If anything, like having a friend always in the shop. But he built furniture, and to see how much more profitable his business was at the time than mine really just made me sick. So
yeah.
So I'd be over there in the corner. I'd be spending, I'd get there around 8 a.m. and, I'd gotten up around 6:30 to get there at 8 or 6:30. And I'd work all day until maybe 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., sometimes later. And he would have built in that time somewhere between like 30 and 40 tables for a kitchen, for a restaurant. And I'd be making, maybe $300 off of the carving that I had completed in that day. And he had been making $250 per table.
Yeah.
So I was I remember like one of our first days working together, I called my brother and said, Kenny, I've got to figure something else out. This is not going to work. Yeah. I thought I was doing well. I was proud of myself and I was probably 21 years old. This was probably 5 years ago. Probably 3 or 4 years into taking this seriously. Carving. But yeah, I just remember, emoting to Kenny and being like, if this is the way I make a living, then it's not going to work. So,
so when you walk in those doors in your home shop, you're at work?
Yeah. I don't really. So 2 things happen in the shop: carving and reading.
Okay.
So if anything, I'm at risk of absorbing my day in a book. The last 2 weeks, I've been sitting in books until, between 11 and 12, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And so, but just because I have good books right now, I'm not even that patient of a person to sit down and read for that many hours, but I've just had really good books. But yeah, between that, usually around probably like 1 or 2, lately I'll start actually getting into carving. But so it's reading, emails, any sort of computer stuff, uploading a video to the school or responding to FOW students, and then to the shop to carve. So, you know, in some cases, it's only a few hours of carving a day. In other cases, if I have a big project and a deadline, I'm in here, you know, from morning to night carving. But
Yeah. Well, I asked because I've created this nice little studio for myself here.
Yeah.
And it's become my man cave. It's my escape. And I just hang out here. And like you said, the carving is almost secondary now. It's just like and that's why because when I go to work, I go to work.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I come here, I can go off on a different tangent totally and blow my time. But
so it's your hangout space.
It's my little man cave now. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I can relate. The friend who helped me build this, she would laugh at me because if ever I invited people over, it was to the shop, not to the house.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you can see there's not a lot of room here. It's a 12 by 16 space.
Yeah.
I'm more proud of this than I am the house that I remodeled.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. So
do you have like a try and apply a schedule to yourself, or do you feel that it's usually best if you have some projects in mind or brainstorming? You mentioned this board behind you. For those who are watching visually, there's a whiteboard behind your head with a list of projects. Is that something you add to regularly?
I add to it, but I look at it and I only do what I'm in the mood for.
Huh.
Right? I don't force myself to do anything that I'm not feeling at the time, because this is not my job either, right? This is a hobby. Yes, I hope to maybe move into semi-retirement through this channel, through this like carving and videos and whatnot, because otherwise I'll be working till I'm 90 years old the way I'm going. Right. So I don't do anything that I'm not feeling at the time. So, because otherwise it's just another job.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know if you've watched many of my videos or whatever, but I lean towards quirky or fun.
Yep.
Like, I don't take myself too seriously. Yep. I do some tutorials that are like step by step. Real, to me, they're boring slogs of like just working through it. But some of the things I'll do, like I've got making a gnome feeding the animals in the bush, holding the little, stuff like that. I know the video, mostly audio, but I made him the other day, and like I had him feeding the wild turkeys in the bush. I started out as a bird feeder. As a gnome holding a little pot, and he started feeding the birds at my bird feeder. And I thought, well, we can go farther. So then I took to the bush, and then we had possums and wild turkeys and all these critters eating from this gnome. So I like fun,
That's
just
fun.
like I've got another one where I brought out my 5-year-old self, and I carved a gnome in a boat, and then I sent him down the creek on an adventure to bring supplies to I set carvings all the way down the creek. So it's fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. I like fun. So if it's not fun, or if I don't really want to do it, I don't do it. Because you can't please everybody. And at the end of the day, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
I could learn a thing or two from you in that regard. Probably introduce more fun. I think I get pretty hard on myself sometimes, and I extract all possible fun from projects.
Well, and but there on your end too, like you are a true artist, and I understand there's a difference in a true artist and just a quirky carver. Like I can never aspire to be half as good as you are in the detail and it's just get it done and have fun. It's not, I don't have that artist mentality. It's just like, I like to create, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But
it doesn't have to be, I can make googly eyes on my guys,
Right.
So.
But coming from, this world of, selling carvings full time, and trying to, be ultimately an advocate for carving being a form of fine art. I think that having that levity about your projects is almost necessary to a project development, and and of course, resistance can be an indication that you're going in the right direction. But that should also be tempered with the fact that if you're not enjoying yourself, if it's not a hell yeah, then why are you?
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
yeah.
Yep.
If you're not totally into what you're doing, why are you doing it? Like, find something else to do. Life's too short.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a good meditation. Like when you're carving, like if I don't, if I'm not enjoying myself right now, find something else to do. Life's too short.
Yeah. Yeah. People are always asking me to sell my stuff, and I've always said, if I sell, either I sell my stuff or I make the videos, but not both.
Yeah.
I can't do both. Well, while I'm working, at least, for sure, right?
Right.
Because the weight that puts on you to have to create in order to sell,
right,
is that, I think that's the beginners, one of the biggest mistakes new carvers do is they try to, I'm going to do this for a living,
right,
and they do a lot of my tutorials, and then you'll see the Etsy page is full of their carvings for $15.
Yeah.
Well, how frustrating is that? Imagine giving your carving to somebody and the smile you put on their face is worth more than $15 in the trip to the post office to mail your package.
Right.
And just don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Don't, it's not, everything can't be about money, because you'll just be sad.
Right. Yeah. Having that mindset of making art to sell as a beginner probably is a bad thing.
Or as a hobbyist in general.
Right.
Right. If it's your living, it's your living. But as a hobbyist, don't try and make money from your hobbies, or they become a job.
Right. That's good. Yeah, I think that for me, I was carving for a few years before I ever stumbled into art shows or art fairs, and but before then, I thought it was fun to bring my carvings in front of people and like do these little shows like farmers markets and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, even that was kind of out of enjoyment for showing off what I was doing and people enjoying it and buying it and bringing it home. And, and then starting to do the fine art show circuit was totally incidental. And, I kind of stumbled into that world through another carver, and that ultimately became the way that I made a living for. So from age 16 to, until COVID hit, it's been a part of my income, but it was my sole income until probably age 21 or 22. So that's 5 years, yeah, give or take, of just doing art shows. So just my only source of income was selling carvings. And it was, I would say I recommend it for folks who are, already passionate about their art and they're making art that they're proud of and that they want to get out into the world. But if you don't enjoy that process, it's probably not going to work out for you. I loved going to art shows. I loved talking to people. I loved the feeling of camaraderie, meeting other folks who liked my stuff enough to buy it. That got me off and got me wanting to be back in the shop making stuff. I thrived on that, but even that eventually, 4 or 5 years in, that got really old. So I had to find a way out of that too. So yeah, I think that's following your passion is huge. But then that stick with itness that you mentioned, whilst you're developing your hobby or career is also a big deal. So,
well, maybe to be fair, it could be my own insecurities for selling too. Is that what maybe I'm not. I think everyone's going to pick apart my little mistakes. That probably I'm the only one that sees them.
Right.
Yeah.
That is also true. That you can be overly critical.
Yeah. So what so that's your last 5 years. So what do you want to be when you grow up?
Um, I'm still working on it. I'm still forming that.
Like, would you be totally content doing what you do in 10 years?
If I was doing exactly what I did now, would I be content? If I was able to expand on some of the things that I'm doing, this, for instance, this is super. The amount of enjoyment I get from talking to people that I want to talk to. I could see myself doing this for 10 years. Yeah, for sure. I would say I'm definitely the happiest I've ever been in my work, having the diversity of being able to teach, which I've always done for love. Again, not for monetary obligation. I started teaching when I was 16 because I was offered a job teaching a class at woodcarving at the Woodcraft shop down here in Michigan. For those of you who live in the area, it's between 16 and 17 in Van Dyke, in Sterling Heights, Michigan. But I taught my first class there, and became an integral part of what I do, kind of for fun, as well as for money. So that was huge. And then so teaching, doing these online workshops as a part of teaching, as a separate entity or business, and then making the art on a commission basis. This is the happiest I've been, having these things to go back and forth.
Nice diversification that you can just kind of, I get it. Yeah.
Because I'm like you, if I have, if my job was just to sit in this studio for 9 hours a day to make carvings, I would be beside myself.
Yeah.
I'd be beside myself. There's no way I could do it.
Yeah. So you enjoy the actual in-person teaching classes?
Totally.
A lot.
Yeah.
See, this is funny to me because people always look at me as a teacher on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you told me I had to go stand in front of 5 people and teach, I'd have a gut ache for 2 days before. I am so behind, like, that would just freak me out. Yeah. But I can talk to a camera and it ends up being 10,000 people watching. But you put 10 people in front of me and I'll be sick I'll just be so nervous. Yeah.
What world do we live in?
Yeah, it's so funny.
So what pisses you off generally?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I'll make a lot of enemies if I start saying everything. I think laziness drives me crazy. And not to knock the younger generation, like your age example.
Yeah.
You're probably a rare breed in your group of people.
Yeah.
Like people that I don't know. I've been working since I was 12. I get off in public school. I have to bike to my job in public school and work. So I've always worked, but the laziness and the phones bother me too. You see people working with their phone in their hand. If my employee, like, you put that phone in your lunchbox, you check it at lunchtime, But I guess laziness, and people want instant gratification without putting in the work.
Right.
And that, to me, that is a laziness. You got to work for what you get.
Yeah. We are definitely a generation of distracted people. Yeah, I definitely see that. Anything, well, I guess, what is it about laziness that bothers you?
Maybe it's jealousy that I can't be. No, I don't know. It's just like, maybe it's just my personality that even walking with someone who walks slow. Let's go. I don't know.
All right.
I wasn't expecting that question, but
yeah. No, I get it. your first joke reminded me of the I can't remember who it was, the writer, but in conversation in an interview talking about having writer's block, he said, "Yeah, I'm not afforded the luxury. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't have the time to have writer's block. I have to get something out. You know, I have deadlines.
Do the job. Yeah.
I have a job. This is my work. You know, I can't afford to not have a thought come to mind. I have to write through it. So, you know, people like that, they probably resent the vloggers who talk at length about how, you know, you just have to like sometimes live life and then through your experiences, you know, write, you know, and take a break and go on vacation and have, you know, have something to write about. It's like, well, some folks don't have that opportunity.
No, a lot of folks don't have that luxury. Yeah.
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 Yep. So that frustration is merited because so much of the time it's about loving what you do, but you know, finding what you love to do and then sticking with it regardless of how, you know, uncomfortable it might feel in certain instances, or it's like your brain will lie to you, even if, you know, especially if you're like us, you have a distractible mind, or a mind that needs to be occupied all the time with something. It's like, you know, you will find that if you're not engaged mentally and physically, it's not going to work. So this is something to learn about yourself. But it's definitely it's challenging because, you know, your brain tells you that you don't like something, and so oftentimes it's the thing that you most like, you know. Your brain lies to you sometimes, you know.
The brain is a terrible thing. Like, sometimes in the morning I'll wake up and I'll have this great idea and I say, tonight after supper, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
By lunchtime, I could flip-flop that idea and no desire whatsoever and do something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, maybe there must be medication for that, eh, Alec?
Yeah. We'll probably just resolve at the end of this podcast to get on whatever, you know, some version of ADHD meds.
Maybe we just name the podcast ADHD, right?
Yeah. Carving with ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what advice would you give your 30-year-old self?
Wow. Well, to be honest, and this is so in line with this, but start carving. I wish, so I'm turning 50 next month, and I've only been carving for maybe 5 years on and off.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just started.
I didn't know this about you.
Oh yeah. So I wish that I had a lifetime of carving, because it's been the greatest find ever in my life for a hobby.
Right.
Like I still like, you know, I was always hunting and fishing and outdoors and stuff, but the whittling and the carving, like, I wish I had my whole life. Now I don't have as much time with it to pursue it. So
right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how much time have you wasted in front of the TV since you were 30? Well, not you, but say,
Yeah.
you know,
right,
20 years of you know, waste. Now, mind you, I was always doing something else, but I wish I started carving at a younger age.
Right.
Yeah. So you're very fortunate to have started at what, 12?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I am very fortunate to have had you know, that, you know, the free time too. I was homeschooled and didn't have as much going on, and by that I mean I didn't have any friends or or any like defined social life. So I carved my friends Favorite, it could be carving related purchase, or it could be outside of that, bushcraft or whatever. Favorite purchase under $50.
Oh my. I wish you had sent me these questions on a cheat sheet I could be thinking about.
I should have.
Favorite purchase under $50.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna take a minute. What would I think of?
And it can also just be something that you've bought recently that seems to be particularly helpful. It doesn't have to be like the most significant or useful $50 purchase.
Do you know, I'm going to raise the price a little bit.
Sure.
But I bought a wool sweater from Ireland. And it is my all-time favorite thing. I wear that thing. In fact, I take it off all the time when I'm going to do a video or a Zoom call because people think I'm going to live in that sweater. So that's a favorite. It's just the comfiest sweater I've ever had in my life, and that is pretty lame for.
No, do you know who? No, that's great. That's a great answer. Do you know who made it?
It's an Aran sweater.
Like Aaron.
Spelling I don't remember. Maybe Aran.
Okay.
But they're famous there for the sweaters, and it's my favorite thing.
That's a good one.
Back at you. What's your favorite?
I wasn't expecting that.
See how you like that?
Oh gosh. Now I'm looking around the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite purchase for under $50 as of late. I would say, yeah, probably. There's a book that I bought called the War of Art. And
the War of Art or the Art of War?
The War of Art.
Not the Art of War.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy. It is such a good book
Wow.
for creative people. It talks a little bit about the idea that, as artists, we all have resistance in our lives, and usually that resistance is a voice of doubt saying that we're not good enough, or we're not creative enough, we don't have something to say. Really one of the learning outcomes for me was that when you create to find out what you have to say. You don't create to out of the overflow of the many ideas and visions and thoughts that you have. Some people are like that, but most people, creative expression is a way of finding out what it is that you think about, or if you're a writer, or maybe if you're a carver, you actually learn through carving. You know what I mean? You don't have this perfect vision in your head of what you're going to create, and then you execute it, and it's exactly as I imagined.
Yeah.
It's really like, like you say, having fun with the process creatively, and surprising yourself with the outcome. That's huge, and not letting the voice of resistance in your head keep you from starting projects. That thing that you talk about, we all have, which is, it's that Mitch Hedberg joke. Actually, it's like, when I come up with a good joke and the pencil's far away, I have to convince myself that it's not that good of a joke. So I don't have to get up and get the pencil.
You could change that to carving too. He's got another one I always like, but it's about drugs. But you could say, I used to carve. I still carve, but I used to too. Right?
Yeah. I like the PG version.
Yeah, exactly. While you're talking, that sounds like a really good book, but I thought of a better option for me.
Okay.
I bought a cheap Amazon trail camera,
Really?
And that has been the most fun. I've been running to the bush like a little schoolgirl to get that card out, to see it's hunting with a camera and what goes on when you're not there. And I have had so much fun. You'll see I've been putting little clips in my videos lately of it's just so much excitement, because even when I get home with the card, I still don't know what I have. And it's always like opening a present to see what walked by my trail camera or what I saw. And that was it was cheap too. So that was one item that definitely falls in that category.
And just so the listeners know what that is it's an Amazon, if they search bush camera, is the Amazon basic version of it then, or
trail camera? There'll be 500 of them. This was just a cheaper one,
right?
And since the first one, I've already bought a second just to have two. But yeah, you just tie it to a tree and see what goes on when no one's there. Yeah.
There's a YouTube video or a video on your Instagram of birds eating out of your gnome bird feeder.
Yeah.
And folks can see that on Instagram via Doug Linker, Linker. Did you use a trail camera for that?
So the bird feeder type birds, that was with my action camera, but when I took it to the bush, it was all trail camera.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wouldn't come on until an animal came up to the gnome for his presence and food. So
that's awesome. Well, I'll probably bring this conversation to a close. I'll ask you a final question that I probably, like you say, should have sent you these, but take your time in answering this. What is the hardest you've ever laughed? And if you can't think of a moment, that's fine. But just a time where you've laughed really hard.
I've got it.
Do you?
I've got it right off the bat. Yeah. I was we were on a fishing trip in northern Ontario, and we had a guy. It was about a mile from where we parked. We carried all of our tin boats and motors and everything to the lake, went about a half-hour boat ride, picked an island, and camped on the island. And we had this one old guy, and he refused to camp. He wanted to go back. On his truck, he had a little camper, and every night he would go back. Well, he went the one night, got a little bit late, and he decided, and we teased him mercilessly about that. Like, it would take him like an hour to get back just so we could sleep, And the one night, it was getting late already, and we were teasing him. He's like, I got to go back to my truck. And he'd miss all the deep fried fish and everything. Like, he'd miss camping.
Right.
But the one night he went to leave, and of course there's no docks or anything. So he went and put one foot in his tin boat, and the boat pushed out, and he did the old flailing of the arms with one foot on the rock, and he fell over backwards into the water. And he was soaked from head to toe and didn't have nothing. And by this time, like, it was already getting dark, and he would never make it back to his truck. And we laughed first everyone was like, nobody laughed.
Right.
And then it was one of those, we can't contain the laughter, and everybody just burst out laughing, and we laughed in fact, it continued to the next day, because he didn't have a sleeping bag or nothing, but he rolled up in a blue tarp, if you can imagine, and slept on the ground. And he woke up in the morning. He says, I almost perished last night, and we all laughed again. So that was one of the I love that story.
It's like the effect of the church laugh. It's funnier when you're not supposed
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody was like, hush, hush. We can't laugh, because this is not serious, but embarrassing for him. And then we just couldn't contain it, and everybody just blew up. So that was a great one.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Doug, so much for joining us today. And by us, I mean the listeners and I.
I feel like we could do this about 8 more times
yeah, we'll
and
definitely,
hardly scratch the surface. Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely do it again. I would love to have you back on. So thanks for the conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, Alec.
All right, cool.
That was so good.